And just, I want to start by just saying thank you for welcoming us to Prague. We've been felt so much support and so much security here with our group of 15 people coming from Reykjavík Art School through Erasmus, and then with Jóhanna and Art Without Borders. So you're such a welcoming bunch of good people. So thank you very much for that. You made us feel very welcome. And the students, they were so happy. They left yesterday, but they were so happy with this visit and what they learned, and to get to know the artists here and this program. And so thank you. Good to start with that. And I feel very privileged to be here, and nice to be with you. Thank you for coming. I know some of us are artists, some of us are parents, but all probably share an interest of this subject, that is inclusive art world and inclusion maybe in general in society. And like Otto said, my name is Margrét. I'm a teacher at Reykjavík Art School. I am on the board of Art Without Borders. I'm lucky to work with Jóhanna, who is the artistic director of the festival. And I encourage you to look at the art festival online. There's quite a lot of information. And the festival has had a great impact on the art world in Reykjavík and in Iceland. But it has taken, it takes many steps. It takes time to break down barriers. I also teach at the Icelandic University of the Arts, where I teach in the education department, where artists come in to get a degree for teaching. And there I teach about an inclusive education environment and how teaching diverse students. So yeah, that's like my field of interest. I also teach in Fjölment, which is an adult education center for people with disability. We have a big variety of courses there, all from art and yoga and cooking and short programs and long program, all made up by the demand of or the need of the people themselves who come there, what they want to do, what they feel they need. So, and I have more connections also. I work within art and culture a lot, yeah. And a few years ago, I did my master thesis based on results of a qualitative research, and I examined the potential for people with intellectual disabilities to exploit the opportunities in the art world. And the main result, which was not a surprise, is that the opportunities of people with disabilities are very different from others. And it's in the whole, spectrum of the art world. It's when it comes to education, when it comes to exhibition, and yeah, in all different areas of the art world. And their position is really based on the space that society assigns people with disabilities. And that space relates to social understanding of disability and the status of people with intellectual disabilities in both social and in a cultural context. So, but I forgot to say that it's good that you just stop me if there's something that you want to like, oh, what did you mean about this, if I can explain better? But then we take the questions for later. But I think it's good that we have a discussion if there's something that, you would like me to explain better. And the fact that the traditional path that most travel who want to pursue a career in the art world and are required to travel means they have less opportunities to increase their capital in the world of art. And the results of the research also point to the need for the improvement in the condition of artists with intellectual disabilities so that they can enjoy their talents. And in this talk, I'm going to focus on education, on art education, and accessibility to education. And because education plays such a big part when you want to pursue a career, if it's art or something else, education is a foundation into, the area you choose to pursue your career. And I also talk about inclusion in a bigger context as well. And in the end, I want to talk about specifically what we can do in order to change this. And my background, I am a visual artist, so I focus on that area, but it really applies to every single art form. But my focus is on visual art. The situation in Iceland is best when it comes to visual arts. When it comes to inclusion, there are most opportunities, but less when it comes to theater, dance and music. But hopefully that's changing, and Art Without Borders has had a lot to do with that. And before I go into the slides, I want to talk a little bit about how I know maybe all of us have some kind of connection with this field, and this is this is our interest. We want to fight for equality in the art world. For a lot of people, they don't have a connection when it comes to inclusion and inclusive society. And sometimes it can be very good to like mirror, I don't know if it's the right term, to mirror your experience. Do you know that term? Makes sense? Yeah. So, we can mirror some experience that we can relate to understand a different one. And I mean, some of us have experienced being marginalized or being othered by some kind of criteria, like maybe women in the group have experienced sexism during their lifetime. That's quite likely. So, and it's good to we could mirror that experience when we talk about inclusion. And I guess it's the same here, like back in Iceland, we are aware of sexism, we are aware of racism, and we are using our means to, when it comes to that, and most people, can spot it when it happens, although of course it goes, well, okay. But then we have ableism. And I know for many people, sexism and racism, and then you have ableism, and people are like, what? What is ableism? And ableism is society's prejudice against people with disabilities or disabled people, different how you want to word it, and discrimination against them. And the prejudice is based on the belief that we consider to be that the typical abilities are somehow superior. Like walking is more superior to traveling between places with a wheelchair. Or that the neurotypical nervous system is superior to a neurodivergent one. That's ableist. But we don't really have a good word for it in Icelandic either. So we're using it,
English for now.
Yeah, for now. And also connected to that is the medical viewpoint of disability, which is like controlling viewpoint in our societies and have been for decades. And disabled people have been fighting this viewpoint it was like started maybe in the 60s and the 70s, trying to fight this viewpoint of this medical point, because at the core there is the assumption that disabled people need to be fixed or need to fit into the defined norm of the typicals, or like what I come to later and call the norm troopers, like the, ríkjandi, ráðandi, dominant viewpoint. It's not the respect of a person like the person is, but you need to be fixed. You need to become to fit into our system, our boxes. And ableism can be very out in the open, but it can also be in all kinds of forms, and it can be in the form of microaggression that you maybe know from something else, where, for example, in Icelandic, when people want to curse somebody or put them down, you say, "Are you retarded?" "Are you gay?" is another one that "Are you gay? Are you homosexual?" That we've been fighting that. And almost the young people are not using it anymore, but we still have this term, to put people down. And that's all a part of, that's very ableistic to do that. And another thing is like if there's a person who has her personal assistant, then people tend to talk to the assistant instead of the person. That's also, a part of this microaggression and ableism. And I mean, a person is always a person. It's like that. Each one of us is a person, and we are just as we are, And for example, when you meet an autistic person, you meet one autistic person, just one. And you cannot classify an entire group of people based on that person, So like racism and sexism, ableism others people, it marginalizes them and classifies them as less. So we are fighting ableism. And we have internal biases, just both personally because of the society and the culture we grow up in, and society as a whole has a big bias when it comes to this. There's like a, hugsanaskekkja. Did we find the word for it?
Yeah, I got to find the word for it. We'll see if I can find it on
Yeah. So it's like there's like if you had the program on your computer and there's something broken within the program. That's the thing we have in society when it comes to the rights of disabled people. We have something is not working right. Johan is going to find the word and it.
Yeah.
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 Maybe you get the context, and it doesn't really matter. But but it's okay to realize that we have a bias. We have an internal bias, and society has a bias when it comes to this. And and like I said before, we are all different kind of person. We all have our human rights. Human rights is for everybody. It's not more for you and less for you. It's the same. It's just human rights. And you probably know the term of putting on your gender glasses. Do you know that term? When you put on the gender glasses and you can see your environment through the gender glasses, and you're like, oh, okay, this is not working, And you can see that maybe all the ministers here are men, or I don't know. Then you have the gender glasses on when you're looking how society is. And also you put on the accessibility glasses. And we need to do that, Who is here, who is not here is maybe more important than who is here. And now I have two questions for you. If we were redesigning, we got the opportunity now to redesign our education system and redesign the art world. It was like, now it's ground zero. We don't have all the history. We're just here to redesign it. Would we, exclude some people from partaking or being part of those systems? And if the answer is yes, would we exclude people from it? And the answer is yes. And we keep it as it is. It really goes against all social contracts that we have agreed upon in the modern era. It goes against ethical standards, and it goes against human rights and our goals for an inclusive society. And if the answer is no, that I think we here all agree that it is, we don't want to exclude people. We want an inclusive society, education system, and an art world. And the best time, of course, we would want it to be perfect, to be good. But the best time to start, since it's not good, is just now, and do whatever we can to change it. And the responsibility, of course, hangs on a lot of people, but every single one of us in our context, where we are at, where we work, who we are connected to, we can make a difference. And we can take responsibility in our environment, as persons. And like I said before, I want to talk about art education and the art world and point out obstacles and different opportunities that we have in participating in the art world. And I also want to talk about the importance of removing obstacles and the use of universal design to do so. That's another term, universal design. Is it familiar to you? No. We'll go into it later. It's a good tool for different things. Okay, So, in every society, approximately disabled people are around 10% of citizens of every society. So, within every minority group, disabled people are a minority group within that minority group. They are multi-marginalized. People can be marginalized by, many things. And disabled people are the biggest minority group in the world, and it's the last group to get their human rights recognized. And you can be born with a disability, you can, get it later in life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yeah.
It's, you mean not just like intellectual disability?
No, but just in a, yeah. And in,
you can be born
and what I can see I was Googling and trying to find information about here, the situation in this country, and it says that 1.1 million people are disabled in the Czech Republic. I don't know how, at least that's like public numbers, and that I found. Would be interesting for you to research it a little bit, and I'll come back to it later. But in Iceland, it's like education is mandatory. So children from 6 years to 16, that's the, you have kindergarten, and then you have the level from 6 to 16, and then after that you have college. Er það ekki rétt að...
Yeah, I would call it like, do you call it gymnasium here, like it is in...
Gymnasium, okay, that's good. That's the same as in Scandinavia, yeah. So we have the gymnasium. And it was only in '95 it became a possibility for people with intellectual disabilities in Iceland to attend the gymnasium. And it was only in 2008, which is really just, it was their legal right to get an education in the gymnasium. So it's like terrifying to think about it. It breaks your heart. Yeah, 2008 was their legal right. And in the capital area, around 30 to 50 young people graduate from the gymnasium who have intellectual disabilities. And they graduate from like these kind of special programs within the schools, and research show that them, just like all our other youth and young people, want to educate themselves further. They want to continue educating themselves. And they have, of course, yeah, just like every other young person wants to continue with their education after their gymnasium education. And if we think about the persons who want to pursue a career in the arts, then there's really not that much you can pursue after that. We have courses at Fjölment, which I told you about, which is the Adult Education Center. And then we have the one-year program, whose students were here in Reykjavík Art School. And we have had to fight for that program to continue. We have taken many fights to get the funding to continue. And we know we can continue with the program for the next year, so we will welcome another group in the autumn. But of course, this just should be, we should be secure about being able to continue, because there is a big want and need for this. And then we have some music courses, and people are attending different courses, but it's all informal art education. It's not where you some of us who have pursued and educated ourselves in the art, it's like, okay, you take this step and you get your student exam, and then you get your bachelor's and master's, and you can kind of like walk up the stairs, And I want to mention the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which I hope you're familiar with. And it was considered we need a special contract for people with disabilities, like we have the special UN Convention for children, to really emphasize their rights. And in the 24th article in the UN Convention on the Rights of Disabled People, it's about the basic human rights, that education should be at all school levels for everybody. That's in the convention. And this convention has been ratified in Iceland, but it has not been incorporated into national law and legislations. So until that happens, at least that will help it to become a reality that we have education for everybody on all school levels. And I think there are only like 10 countries in the world or something that haven't ratified this UN convention. A few countries have not. You have ratified it.
What does that mean?
That lögfesting, it's like a technical thing. Fullgilda og lögfesta.
Okay. Just like saying officially that the country's government agrees with this.
Yeah.
And sign it and then.
Yeah, but then it has to become a part. Yeah.
Agrees with it and then it's ratified.
Yeah, and of course you need to, you need to fund. You need to fund this.
Yeah.
And probably that money, when it comes to money, that's always the barrier. Like you probably know if you are working in this field. And this is an important tool for a lot of disability activists to take on the UN Convention.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Czech Republic, like I said, I just Googled, I found this information from I think it was a human rights group, but I didn't find much. And like I said, there are more than 1.1 million people with disabilities living in the Czech Republic, and there is some data available on their situation from what I saw there, from various sources, but but it's not really tracked. So it's not like the situation is not being monitored. Like, do everybody have, basic housing assistance, basic income? How is the situation? I didn't see anything about education because what I felt, I read through it, that not even the basic rights were being taken care of. But I don't know. You know.
I think that this situation is not the topic for the government. They don't solve it. They rely on NGOs, which are focused on different disabilities and people with disabilities,
but
helping them.
It's not an NGO work to, people should not be forced to rely on that. It's basic human rights. Yeah. I'm not, I know.
And it should work differently,
Yes.
of course.
Yes. And it's a struggle, I think, in most countries. But some, of course.
Because when you don't have the statistics, you can say, hey, this is a problem.
Yeah.
We could say like there is more than 500,000 people struggling with this, or it's something the government would have to deal with.
And what these human rights organization I found was they were asking that the government would track it. So you have statistics, you have the numbers in order to, see the situation, see what needs to be done.
Find out what does the Ministry of Social Matters and Work or Labor does in this topic.
Yeah.
They definitely must have some department, but no idea, no clue how these people are working and what are working on. So
Yeah.
The convention is from 2008, but it has had many forms since 1975.
Yeah. Okay.
But this version is from 2008.
Yeah. There's this national Icelandic organization called Þroskahjálp, which I can share with you, that has put the whole convention into like simple, do you know the term simple language, where you put the text to the core, and they, made the whole convention that way, and even had a group of people, disabled people, who were, like ambassadors for the contract, going to all municipalities and to the government and into institutions and introducing this convention. That was like a big project in Iceland, and like an activist program, and it really matters. They had a big impact. And now I would like to ask you to just imagine two persons. They are just finishing their first education from 6 to 16. They're 16. When I was 16, or when I was 6, I just knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an artist. So at 16, it was just like very basic for me to try to get into a gymnasium with like art courses, so I could just like keep going my path. And many of us have this kind of, you know, we know what we want to do, others we don't. Like, yeah, one of my sons, he knows is really direct what he wants to do. The other one, he's more like, you know, wants to try all kinds of different things. So.
How old are they?
The oldest is 16, so he is starting. He's applying now for his gymnasium. He wants to be a computer programmer, so he knows what to do. And if you just imagine, and many of us are parents, and you have your child, and it's a 16-year-old, and you want the child to be, you know, equipped for the future. And of course, like for my son, I want him to get all the opportunities that will help him in pursuing his dream, you know, making his dream come true. And my parents did the same for me. But here is like the two persons, so we're giving one of the persons the big bag with all the tools, all the equipment, all the support needed to pursue their career. Here you go, sweet child, this is your bag full of, you know, tools for your future. And then we have another child, and we're just like, oh, I'm just going to give you this small bag, you know. I'm not really sure you should pursue your dreams. What are your dreams? They might not even have asked, but you get the small bag, and then you give the big bag to the other child. And in the big bag, like I got the big bag, definitely. I got to choose from, you know, different colleges in Iceland. I even got to like go to Denmark, and I was there in 3 schools, and then I came back to Iceland, and then I did another school. You know, I was so privileged without even knowing it, but I finally graduated from like an art program in a gymnasium and I got my student exam. Do you know, yeah, student exam, the ticket you get when you finish your gymnasium. And I could have done more things. I could have applied for a diploma program that are in Reykjavík Art School. I could have done like a 1-year program to make an application there to apply for a University of the Arts. And if I wouldn't have gotten into the University of Iceland, the Icelandic University of the Arts, I could have just gone abroad, and that was my plan even. I'll just go somewhere else. And I had a lot of, you know, opportunities. But the most important thing I got was I got an exchange ticket at the end of my gymnasium. I got my student exam. So I get the ticket, like, you know, in the bus, or I have the ticket to go to the university and have my bachelor's there. And okay, we'll wait for Johanna. Allt í lagi. Yeah. So, but what people with intellectual disability, they don't get a student exam. When they go to the special programs in the gymnasium, they don't get the.
Is it this one?
It's the first one. Yeah. Many copies there. They don't get the exchange ticket, so they're really stuck, you know. And they cannot choose from different, you know, courses. They cannot choose an art line, you know, I want to pursue this or I want to do this. They just have this program, and of course they have choices within it, but it's a lot less opportunities than, for example, what I got, which is a violation of their human rights, because we should all have equal opportunities to pursue our dreams and make use of our talents. And that is even in the UN Convention. We all have the rights to use our talents. It's there. But people, the situation is not like that. You are being, you know, forced to do sometimes something you have no interest in because there are no opportunities to do something else. And here is a picture that is very symbolic. It's a picture of some students in the Reykjavík Art School, and they are all working like crazy the final weeks before their graduation exhibition. Everybody just like, you know, maybe if you graduated from an art program, you know how intense this is the last few days before an exhibition. You're finishing your works. And here is Elín Fanney, her name is, and she's from this one program in Myndlistarskólann, this one-year program, and she's making her final, one of the pieces in her final work. It says middle fingers up if you don't give a fuck, and I love it. It's a great piece. And behind her there are other students her age from another department. And they're almost graduating. It's a week almost until their graduation.
And they are both disabled?
No. Only Elín is defined by that. She doesn't have a student exam. She finished from a special program, but the other ones have their student exam. And all the other three students behind her could apply to keep on studying, but Elín did not. It's like, you can continue, not you, sorry, you know. But
and who said that?
That's the question. But that's because our education system is discriminating against people with disabilities and intellectual disabilities. They give them the rights. They say, like at the end of the gymnasium, it's like because you don't have the student exam, you can't continue. And that's just the system.
So no one prohibited her to go on, but no one encouraged her to go on.
We encourage her, but because she doesn't have the diploma needed to continue, you know, because the school system is put up in a certain way. You cannot take your master's degree before you take your bachelor's degree, and you can't have your bachelor's before you take your student exam, you know. And it's both like locally and international. The system works within a country and between countries. You have some kind of definition.
So she didn't study along the system?
No, she studied in the system designed for students with intellectual disabilities, but the system for students with intellectual disabilities doesn't just go far enough, you know. She just doesn't have the option of going
But it's not fair. It's not fair. But our society, it's a society that it has made it like this, and that's the, you know, it's broken, you know. Tell your story from within the system a few slides away in the end, and then we can discuss it more. It's shocking. And here is a small digression. You probably know these girls, these powerful now. Malala is one of them, and Ruby Bridges is the other one. And Ruby, there on the right, is an American civil rights activist, and she was the first African-American child to desegregate the all-white William Frantz Elementary School in Louisiana during the New Orleans school desegregation crisis in 1960. And Malala, who fought the local Taliban regime in Pakistan that had at times banned girls from attending school. Both revolutionary women that fought the oppressive Persian society had set them. It was illegal for this girl to be in a school where there were white students, and Mala couldn't go to school because she was a girl. It's just to put it in that context, like we talked about before. And okay, so an art education, what's that? What's the value? Can I see how many people have had their art education that are here present? Yeah. Okay, but maybe some other education. Some other education, maybe. Okay. So at least I have my bachelor's and my master's within the art education system, art universities. But I imagine it's the same with whatever your profession is. There is so much things that happen in schools. I mean, I have a lot of people who are still my people, my tribe, from being in art school, being in the art university. We support each other, we exhibit together, you know, we're each other supporters, you know, and it's really important to have that kind of people. And in school you network, you meet a lot of people. You have professional teachers, you have people coming over from abroad. You know, you're networking. It's all going to have an impact on how you can pursue your career in the arts in school. And I imagine, I mean, maybe somebody here is a lawyer or a manager or accountant or something, but you meet people within your field and you share information and experience and you help each other, you know, on your way onward. So a lot of things happen in art school, and also like you have in art school you get to all the time you need to experiment, to make all the mistakes, you know. You have space to go into, you know, your creative thinking, and maybe you want to learn a technique. So there's so many things that happens in art education, and something is that you can put your hand on, like a technique, but then there are invisible things that are also very important in you know, when you go onward. Just like it says here, it's all kinds of development and relationships. And when you graduate, it's like when you finish your student exam, you get a ticket, and at the end of your art education, you can, I mean, you earn the rights to apply for a lot of grants, and you can join the union of artists, and there are all kinds of things you get, you know, you earn your rights to do. And I mean, and that's not, I mean, nothing is guaranteed. You educate yourself in art, and you don't, I mean, and you study law or history or whatever, and nothing is certain after that. Like, you know, I mean, you don't get a job just, oh, you graduated, welcome, here's your bright future, you know. You have to really work, and it can be quite difficult. That probably a shared experience from us in the art world. And in Icelandic, you know, when you are building a career as an artist, you're working as an artist, we often have many jobs, you know, doing this and that to, you know, fund our work. And in Icelandic we call it hark. It's hark. It's a good word. It means like, you know, you're struggling, you might need to do this and this and this. Is there a good word in English for it, Johanna?
People in New York talk about just, it's a struggle, you need to hustle.
Yeah, it's a hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're building your career, you're, you know, exhibiting in this small gallery and maybe a little bigger gallery and maybe a museum. You're building up your CV, you're meeting people, you're applying for grants, maybe you're selling your works, you have to be you know, have visibility online, you maybe have your web page, Facebook, Instagram, you know, go to the openings, meet the people, okay, what's happening, you know. It's yeah, you feel it, you know it, it's true. And also need space and time to work. So it's a hustle, building a career. And I mean, it's not easy, we know that, but for some people, it's easier than for other people, because our system is designed for a certain group of people, a certain type, like atypical abilities. So I mean, it's difficult for people with various abilities, and it's designed for a certain norm. And I want to talk a little bit about the normal factor. The normal factor. And there we have this nice curve, which is called a normal curve, a normal curve. It's a noun. And it's statistics, and it's a symmetrical bell-shaped curve representing the probability density function of a normal distribution. And our society is designed for 68% of its population. And you can think about, when you think about accessibility, I think often we think about thresholds and buildings, you know, getting into a building, getting into a bus, is there staircases or whatever. And that's true, and the outside environment is built for these 68% of the people. But our systems are also built like that, you know. So it's subjective and objective spaces in our culture and our societies. And then we have this term, which is universal design. And it's a very good term. If this lecture would be universally designed, we would have we have a person translating from English. Yes, you're doing a good job. We would have somebody talking sign language, and I even would have more text, for example. So we would make it accessible, and I would not be using these big words that I have written down in English, you know. So universal design is about making it accessible. And if we imply universal design, we are reaching the outer marks of this normal curve. We're including almost the whole, you know, percentage of all the people. The goal of universal design is, for example, to organize and framleiða and make products or produce products, buildings, environment, and service. So it is of use for as many people as possible in as many ways as possible. Nothing is perfect, but as many people as possible in as many ways as possible. And like I said before, we would reach, you know, the outskirts of this curve. We would make our society for everybody, but not just for some of us. An inclusive art world is universally designed. So if we get familiar with these tools, and we have on our, you know, accessibility glasses, so we're looking at our environment through these glasses, we can use this tool, and then we can maybe spot better what we can do. And a few examples here is that most important thing for me, I think, is to change our perspective, change our attitude, put on the glasses, open up the window, you know. It's like a window in the brain that just opens up, you know. And practice human rights, put human rights in practice, and use our influence, our capital. We all have our platforms, depending on, you know, different kinds of platform, and we can have an impact when we use our platforms and our influence or capital wherever we can. Yes.
Yeah,
thank you. And of course, we need the people in power, people that control the money, to, you know, make the changes and fund the changes that need to be done. And just like we as voters can do, we can influence our politicians by that, and even putting pressure of them of raising these questions and putting heat on them. And because we're talking about art, we need to, like, where we're at, be it, for example, art institutions, we can look at, like, what can we do in the position we are. We can ask a question of who is here and who is not here, who is missing from whatever scenario we're in, and invite people in that are not here and don't have access to. And sometimes we have some kind of policies. I know that in Iceland our institutions have policies and the policies are inclusive, but in reality it's not been put to practice. So you need to show it. You need it for it to be visible. You are welcome. Here's, like, for example, there was a research in Iceland about accessibility to music education with children, and the study showed that disabled children were not coming to have a music education. But the school was like, but they are welcome, you know. But they just forgot, you know, how they presented the school to society on their visible material, like pictures and the text they put out on the websites. You couldn't see it there. So people didn't, and the parents of disabled children, they didn't realize because it wasn't visible to them. And you're so used to being marginalized in so many contexts that it is not a reality. And like it's getting not common, but more and more artists in different fields are doing this. They're demanding, like if you're participating in an exhibition or if you are an actor in a TV show, I've heard this from within theater and the movies, that if you have the capital, so you know, maybe you're an actor, you're participating in some program, and they really want you there. So you can use your capital and have it like an inclusion writer. You know, you can make demands. You want blue M&Ms, then you want an inclusive set, for example. So that's an inclusion writer. Make demands where you are. And of course, I mean, students have a lot of impact themselves, and I think in Iceland, the student union is often fighting for the rights of students and have been a loud voice in fighting for rights of all kinds of marginalized groups, and politically, historically, probably here too. I mean, and that's a group I would like to see participating in this inclusion revelation, demand this to be a fact within our education system, within our universities. For example, I'm just pointing out a few things, you know. Yeah. There was just a few examples of what you can do, but it depends on like where we are, what we can do. But if we have the glass, if we have the perspective, we have, then we can, yeah, and then we can do what we can do at the place we're at. And it is human rights. It's not. It should be just basic rights. And I'm going to show you two examples from three artists. These artists, their names are Þórir Gunnarsson and Kolbeinn Jón Magnússon, and they were here with us until yesterday. And they are fantastic artists and fight and activists. They are disability rights activists. And Þórir Gunnarsson, the one in the red shirt, last year he applied for the visual arts program in Icelandic University of the Arts. And his application got accepted, which was a big step, and he got to the next level, that was an interview, which is, he broke down 2 barriers on his way to the university. What happened in the interview is that he was asked if he could write an essay and if he could take, if he had his student exam, which he doesn't because he's the same age as me. And when we were 16, I could, like I told you before, I could educate myself more, but because he has a disability, he could not. And at that time, there were no special programs. So it was just like, he wanted to educate himself, but sorry, you just have to try to find work, which he did. So, and we have talked about this, we have had lectures together where we have, compared our opportunities since we are born in the same year and are both artists. And I'm a privileged one and he is, has been marginalized. But he did this and he did not get accepted, but he got like awards for being like, it's a big award in Iceland for being a múrbrjótur, the ones who break down walls. He got that award last year. And this year, him and his fellow artist, Kolbeinn Jón Magnússon, they both applied for the University of the Arts, made their application really fantastic. They're fantastic artists, and they didn't get in. But they applied. And Þórir called me just a few hours after he got the answer from the school, and he was like, of course he was mad, of course. But he said, okay, Margrét, last year I applied. This year, me and Kolbeinn applied. Next year, we're going to be 4. I was like, yes! You know. Þú mátt klikka á YouTube myndbandi. And here's just a short video. Oops.
What happened?
Of Þórir.
But also, is there sound on the screen?
Þórir Gunnarsson, listamaður, og þetta Reykjavíkursætur og allir réttindi sækir í skóla verið ófeyrnir.
He's just saying, my name is Þórir Gunnarsson, I'm an artist. This work is by this Icelandic band called...
Or of, yeah, not by, yeah.
Called The Daughters of Reykjavík. He has a picture holding it and he says, don't hesitate to apply for art education. It's your right, do it. So it's like an encouragement from him.
This is new, 18 hours ago, newly published.
I just put it on YouTube.
Okay. I want to share it.
Yeah, you can.
If I can.
You
I
can.
can stay there, right?
And here we have another young woman who is graduating from Reykjavík Art School next Friday, in a week from now. A very recent photo of her working in the Barvolum studio. And she wrote a letter to society, and it's called A Letter to Society, because it is the society that is breaking her human rights. And she wrote an article together with her fellow students that was published in one of the biggest papers in Iceland, where the first lines of the article say, we are all human and we all should have the same rights, human rights. Some people think it's okay to violate the rights of disabled people. We should be able to study what we want and work like everybody else. That's her beginning lines of the article. And I felt it was important to show this here now, even though they are not with us here. And it matters, and I know they both wanted this to be presented. And we should always remember that it's people who make systems, and it's people who change systems. Systems are not, you know, carved and set in stone. We can make a difference, we can change it. And it is important, the importance of removing obstacles and embracing the principle of universal designs. We can do this, and it is vital. Of course, it's vital for people to be able to pursue their career, but it's also just vital for future of the art, you know, future of the world, that we are inclusive, because that makes a good society and a better society, much better society. So that was the end of the talk, like formally, but I would love to have a discussion with you, like, and maybe just a discussion with the group. Maybe you have some thoughts or questions or anything you want to share, maybe?
Že bych chtěla, aby jsme teď o tom diskutovali, tak jestli chcete sdělit nějaké svoje zkušenosti nebo myšlenky.
I have experience when you were talking about politicians and the pressure politicians. I'm afraid that if politician hears that he should do something for just 1/10 of the population, it's too small amount of people for him to do something different.
Really?
He needs a bigger group of people that they gave him a vote.
So he only supports maybe white men, middle-aged.
Experience. If you see what's happening every 4 years, when elections are coming, politicians are aiming on this on the ghost curve, on the majority of people, not on the people on the right and on the left side.
So people need to come together and you know, work together on
And people in that majority realizing that it's your own benefit that the sides become equal, or it doesn't even need to be your benefits though, but like using that position of power if you're in the middle.
Yeah, using your platform, using your.
Not complaining.
No, just
reality.
Yeah.
I was speaking about the current situation, and it's not only the problem of Czech Republic. It's everywhere.
Of course.
You can find a delighted politician who understands the needs of a small group of people, and he is trying to do something, but he's alone or two of them, not the majority.
But then that's why you have all kinds of like the UN Convention and law and legislations and agreements in order to, increase the rights of people that have been marginalized and others in our society,
But like you said, like between the conference and the reality, the praxis, it's two very different things. Very often, I don't know, from there, for example, many of the ideas were so abstract that, unless there is, I guess, like, you have to have, for example, information in easy to read language, and there is a concrete statement that this is something that you are obligated by law to do, and you are just saying, yes, we need to be more inclusive, or yes, we need to be more open. So it doesn't,
and sometimes you need to organize, to raise your voice. You need to gather people together to have a higher voice, a bigger platform, more pressure, more voters.
You were definitely right with the system. The system is created by the man and can be changed by the man. But it's sometimes so hard to convince the man to change the system because
People.
people.
It's also made by men. It's also made by men. I think
By
people.
But honestly,
Because it's more convenient to live along the existing system and not to change it, because it's pushing you outside of your area of convenience.
And
In my
you.
business, I'm active in energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is everywhere now the topic number 1 or 2, and you wouldn't believe how hard it is to convince politicians to do things differently than they are used to do the things, in order to achieve the goals, the objectives that we have planned ourselves or are planned by the European Union to lower the energy consumption. We have tools, we have people who can do it, but the system has so many obstacles to do it better and in more quicker way.
Jakie to naocznie właśnie przesvědčit politici, aby se zajímali o minoritních skupinách a celkově jako změnit svoje chování a uvažování.
I mean, not only politicians, but úředníky,
Officers.
But it's very good to think about like because there are so many things that are out of our realms or out of our reach. Some things are like that, and sometimes you can get like, oh, this is just too big of a task. Your hands just like drop, and you get.
That's the phrase in Iceland, like your hands drop when you.
It's an Icelandic. My hands drop. I can't do anything, But we always can do something, and everything matters, and it takes time. So it's more relevant to think about all the small steps you can take, to reach your goal, and that's what we need to do.
And it snowballs and it builds on top of
It
each other.
escalates, definitely.
And also I think, yes, of course, we need the systems to change, and that's what these artists that we mentioned are pushing for. That accessible education is funded because it just needs funding. But then there are also, an exhibition we had last year at the festival where a teacher at the art university just decided to offer a class specifically for people with intellectual disabilities without like asking for permission for it, you know, just like kind of going and doing things.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
her master thesis.
Yeah.
And she did it.
I mean, it was with permission, of course, but I mean, like, just like going and doing things, not necessarily. Of course, you need funding for it to happen, but just like going and you know, when you can make them happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Ona dává jako příklad, že vlastně, že je to unavující, že je potřeba strašně moc věcí změnit a je to takový nekonečný, ale že občas, že každý takový krok je důležitý, tak tam dává příklad jedna učitelka tam z she was teaching at the academy.
Yeah, it was just like one experiment to have the class.
Dělala takový experiment, že tam vlastně otevřela jeden kurz pro lidi s mentálním postižením, aby to mohli chodit a vůbec to neřešila, jakože neschánila.
Yeah, it was her. Yeah. It was her master thesis, and her final project was to create a course for disabled and non-disabled students, and it was just advertised, and people could apply, and they came to the course, and everybody got their, you know, university units. You know, you get units for going to a course in the university. So these units were given to the whole class, of both disabled and non-disabled students in the course got the units. And this is
You mean like credits?
credits, yes. So it was very, you know, groundbreaking, and also just to prove the point, because people often think you need to separate people. Oh, you are this kind of person, I'll put you in this group, and then this kind of person here and there, you know, all set in little boxes. But it doesn't have to be like this. But that's the, you know, the skekkja, that's the what has been implanted in us by society, by our culture, to think in this manner.
Takže to učitelka tam řešila všichni úplně stejně, všichni dostali kredity za to, že se toho účastnili a že vlastně celý ten experiment byl o tom, že jsme hodně naučení, že lidi s postižením a lidi bez postižení by měli být zvlášť a že vlastně na tom experimentu se ukázalo, že to je naše představa, že to vůbec není potřeba.
And I think it's also like interesting this comparison to sustainability action, like that you're saying that like there are people interested in doing the work and tools are available, and maybe people just don't know that the tools are available, the knowledge exists to, you know, create more inclusive environments, and that people just need to, people don't realize that it is possible to in what ways, what exactly needs to change to make environments more inclusive or education more inclusive. Like getting that information to the heads of department in universities or the Ministry of Education to show like here are examples of programs where where people like with intellectual can thrive and do well.
You must definitely create good practice examples and then to show them to the population, to the society, to marketize them.
And
this is actually one of the examples, I would say, this
Very
studio
well.
Barbara. Thank you very much for this. We really appreciate as parents that our daughter can spend some time here doing creating pictures because it helps her, it helps us, and well,
It helps you in tears.
let's wish there are many more such places in Czech Republic.
Yeah, and I was very surprised because two people recommended us to come to Margrét or to art, and I was very afraid. We came here, and I was just explaining, you know, she doesn't speak. She is very afraid about everybody,
She's
and
shy.
I don't know what she will do here because she likes painting, but I don't know how she will feel here. I cannot promise anything because I really don't know. I very often wait what she will want, what she will feel, and this is very difficult. So we came, and everybody accepted this, and I was very surprised that probably nobody is educated in some special education, and it's working everything here. She's happy here. And
it's an inclusive environment.
Yes,
and
it's like atmosphere here is very friendly, and it's enough.
And within the arts, I mean, you have different ways of expressing yourself. You might not speak with words, but you can speak through your works in some way, or whatever your means are and how you want to do it. And I think, because we were talking about universally designed environments and universally designed classrooms, you can have universal design in the classroom. I guess Barvolem is a universally designed program or place, and this is one of the things I teach the teachers. I teach in Icelandic University of the Arts, is if you create an inclusive environment where you are in your classroom, everybody feels better. Every single one of them. When I use the tools I have that are, maybe meant mostly for neurodivergent students, I apply it to everybody. Everybody feels better, So this is the solution that is changing lives for, making it better for everybody, just not a small group. And your daughter or any other, she has her, it's okay. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation, for everything.
Yeah, thank you too for such a warm welcome and making us feel so good. Thank you. Yeah, so maybe we just leave it at this. Thank you so much for coming, and it was very a good experience being here with you. So thank you. But we can stay, and I'm not in a hurry.
For you to send us the things that you said, like that presentation that was about the part that was translated to easy to read, that you said.
Oh yeah, the UN Convention. Yeah, you could. I think you could definitely mirror a lot of things that is done well in Iceland.
The translation of the UN Convention into easy language exists also in Czech. Yes,
yes. So they have it with slides.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. I'm very interested. How to say it? How the students we met became so conscious of their situation. I've got the feeling that the people who are coming here are they don't have this consciousness about their situation.
It's on the table. We talk about it a lot. Yeah, and it's a part of to have like an empowering environment in the school, and we need to discuss these things because they have, of course, their visions for the future, and we like have a course that they've been through where we go to visit. We visit studios, we visit museums, and we visit the venue where artists and designers work, and we visit schools. And they, with another teacher, they went to the university, visited the university to get an introduction there, and there they found out that they needed the student exam, like it was said to them, and they, got so mad at how that was presented to them, that related to Harpa writing the article. So, and they have, and after that we had like a visit from two grassroots organizations that are fighting for the rights of disabled people, both one national organizations which I represent in the board of Art Without Borders on their behalf. And then another organization that is, it's called Átak, and it's disabled people, their own platform to fight for their rights. They visited the art school, and that was also very empowering for the students to know, okay, these organizations exist, and they offered, they published the article on their website, they shared it on their platform, so that matters, and said, like, if you wanna, continue with this, we would love to support you. Maybe you have some ideas. Also, sometimes we are asked to do something, to partake in something. We could use your help and your point of view, so that really matters as well.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, so maybe we're seeing the effects of like inclusivity and visibility having been put into action. That people like you on the board of an organization that's fighting for the rights of people with disabilities say, I'm not the person to talk about this. I'm not myself in a wheelchair if the issue is about that. We need the person in the situation to talk about it. And the same with intellectual disabilities. They, of course, a person with intellectual disabilities would know best what they need. So it's having made that switch in some places, but definitely needs to happen a lot more. But that switch has been made, and we need to constantly remind ourselves in Out Without Borders to, it's the nothing about us without us kind of way of working that has started and needs to develop further.
Yeah, definitely.
More questions?
Or thoughts?
Oh yeah, well, just what I wanted to know whether consciousness is something you also give them in this course where they go, so you kind of educate them in that as well.
Yeah, I think it's very important to do that, to be aware of it. And we had like a discussion, like when Þórir and Kolbe decided on applying for the university, we talked and we were honest about, that there might not be such a big chance that they would get in. So the possibility of not getting in is there, and it was, we have to be honest about it, how it is, and there is a bias, and there is, their opportunities are not as big as somebody who has a student exam. We have to just realize it, but also talk about and they are very aware of it, that they are frumkvöðlar. They are innovators. They are breaking the barrier. They are, if you're in a forest and you're chopping down the, path for the people who come behind, and that's what they are doing. Yeah. So we talk about that, and it's important, and also important to just go to the places, be there, ask questions. Oh, we're here. But that's what, when you have like a marginalized society, you tend to forget the person who is not there. I mean, if an institution is all men and run by men, there's nobody there thinking about the women or people of other genders even, So unless you have maybe put on the glasses and you are scanning your environment in that context and raising the question,
Yeah. I worked in a student union as well, and there was a lot of us having this conversation of who is present and not present, and I'm just adding the thought that like it's the matter of breaking down the barrier to get access, but then there's also so much more work that needs to happen so that people can thrive in education. I like you said, like the student movement is is doing some things, like there's a website outlining the support that is available to students with learning disabilities and physical disabilities in university once you're in. But a lot of the information on this webpage is just like, this space is inaccessible, and but the idea of the website is to show you, here is the support you can get, and it shows you the support you can get, but it also is a tool to look like at this school is doing okay with physical accessibility, but this school is doing really poorly with physical accessibility. So like the student movement, when it has the time and energy to do it, and really can show them like, hey, you got a failing grade on this checklist. That's getting people's minds around the fact that people who have the right to educate themselves are not getting that right, and it's not about not only saying in words that they are welcome, but making the actions to make sure that they're able to thrive. That's a lot of stuff.
And there is one program in the University of Iceland, which is, for everything other than art, almost everything, where there are maybe around 10 students accepted every year or every other year, and that's a part of like the menntavísindasvið.
Education or I can't say pedagogy.
You did. The education department in the University of the Arts. There they have a program, 2 or 3 year program for students with intellectual disabilities.
So they can get the university degree.
And it's in like a field of education, working with people with disability, working with children, like in that area. And they had like a big conference just a few weeks ago, where they were, they're always raising trying to get the university to open up to more departments, because not everybody are interested in, working with education or working with children or people. So you need more, and this their voices. We had this big conference also with Fjölmennt, this place where I work, and that was maybe attended by 100, 120 people, and you could just feel the power of their, when they came together, and they really want to educate themselves more, and they want, different opportunities to pursue their dreams, their interest, and to put their talent at use, Yeah. It's very good, and it was very strong to feel the energy from that field. Yeah.
It looks like a nice future.
Yes, and it's important.
It's long way.
Yeah.
But it's necessary to try it and then to start it and work on it, because and to believe.
Yeah.
Yes, because usually it's a very big problem also with parents that looking on their children.
Prejudices are of course everywhere.
They don't trust in their children.
And I mean, is this your daughter's work?
Yes.
It's fantastic. Fantastic.
Yes.
And she's an artist, and you don't necessarily need a voice or words to be able to express yourself or talk, and she's telling us a big story.
Because this is first institution where nobody wants to speak from her. Because I think in all time education is showing her what is the problem, what she needs to train, what she needs to try. We tell her it at home. You must speak.
But that's ableism.
Yeah. But
it is.
I don't believe that this is ableism from us, because
No, not mean that like that, but like the school system, I mean, you can deliver an essay with pictures. You don't need to, write the words. You could do it in pictures. Why not? Or some other way. And this is changing. Like, I heard about this doctor thesis that the person did and delivered as a comic.
Yeah, this everything we have already passed.
Yeah.
But still, when she meets some people who don't know her, the first word is hello. But she doesn't say hello. What happened?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And it's also then a question
And
of
we have
visibility.
to explain
And like, but maybe sometime in the future when, these activists have had these conversations, been in television or made a movie about it, or wrote a book about it, or had an art show of a person who communicates or doesn't communicate verbally often. Like, it's all of these, just talking about it can also make that difference, that hopefully at some point she'll be able to feel more accepted or be more accepted. But
it's about, like, because we're always trying to fit everything into the the box, the normal box, the norm, expecting things and people to, and if they don't fit into it, we try to get them to fit into it, so they operate like everybody else or the majority. But I hope and I think it's changing, like the neurodivergent discussion, and I feel there's more awareness about that, because we can easily adjust so many environments and in order to make people feel good and realize that we sense things differently, we understand things differently. And I feel like it's changing, but we need to inform people more about it. We need to re-educate ourselves about it in order so it can change.
Yeah, I think when children are in contact with some
neurodiverse.
they can play without problems and communicate. You don't need anything special. But when we grow up, we have some bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
But it's very nice. It's pleasure, my pleasure to hear this.
Yeah, the same. We're very happy to be here, and it really matters. And like for us coming from this small island, Iceland, it's so important to visit, to go abroad, to meet other people. And I felt it with the students as well. They found it so important to be able to come here and get to know the different culture, just different climate, different buildings. Everything is different, and it really opens so much for us to be able to do that.
So what I wanted to ask you, how do you feel in this weather? Cold weather, don't you?
Yesterday we were out in the park by the National Museum, just laying in the grass, a bunch of us.
Sweating.
And people all around us, having a conversation, dancing, and I was like, oh my God, if the weather was a little bit better in Iceland, I think it would be so much more fun, because
We are so frozen in Iceland.
because I mean it's different. We can't just like go in the park and just like hang out because it's too cold.
The wind and the hail.
Yeah, so we close up more,
We're lucky because
instead of just like
for May, such hot weather. It's like for July.
Yeah, this is very hot, but people relax in this kind of climate, and they're out on the streets, they're meeting on the streets, while we're inside where it's warm. Yeah. But yeah, so it was really, we took an interview, we were making a documentary about the trip here, and the students were doing that as well, and the artists, and they were taking interviews yesterday and sharing like if they thought it was important, this exchange, that Erasmus is making it possible to come here, and they were like, yes, yes, it's so important, it's kind of like opening everything up, experiencing all of this, and yeah, it was very strong.
First time you've been to Czech Republic, or have you been here before?
I
I've been here only a few days before, but
Yeah.
I think most of the students.
I think all of our group was
Yeah.
maybe 2 of you had been here before, but
Yeah.
the rest of us have never been here, so.
And in Europe?
Yeah.
But this was the first time that that your department goes abroad. Right?
Yeah,
So,
like
yeah.
in Erasmus. And for
Yeah.
some of the artists, it was the first time that they were traveling without their parents. So there's a lot of things that, our main goal was just to get empowered by just, all this experience, just traveling, finding your ways, taking the metro and getting lost and finding your way again. I mean, it's all a part of the experience. Mm-hmm.